Murray threads it.
Without fail, every single year, fans or even the media often tend to hold certain players in a little bit of higher regard than they're probably worth, even though all the signs are there that they are not going to meet expectations. And let me tell you, it does not matter what team you root for, because your team is certainly hyping someone up who really does not deserve it. Making a reputation for yourself in the NFL is no small task, but sometimes what's even more challenging is maintaining it as your career progresses. Because every single year, without fail, we see big-name players with huge price tags that get hyped up in the media who just don't deliver. So without further ado, let's take a look at every NFL team's most overrated player heading into the 2023 season.
Scoops it up, jumps to his feet, an entourage blocking to the end zone.
Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray. It's hard to deny that Kyler Murray is overrated when you stack his recent production against the 2022 contract extension that he signed. I suppose there is a slight difference between overpaid and overrated, but that's largely semantic. Murray has been treated like a top quarterback in the league, but he still hasn't even posted a 4,000-yard season, and his lone playoff start was so bad that it would honestly be better if he hadn't made it at all. Atlanta Falcons, Kyle Pitts. While maybe due to the Falcons' offensive system and their questionable decision to take him 6th overall, Kyle Pitts has not really lived up to expectations. He did make the Pro Bowl year one, albeit in a shallow position group, but his production fell off a cliff in 2022. It's hard to be considered one of the best receiving tight ends in the league when you go for under 400 receiving yards in season. Baltimore Ravens, Odell Beckham Jr. At this point, Odell is, as they say, more sizzle than steak. He took a heinous multi-city free agent tour last season and never even ended up signing a deal. There's a lot of excitement about him joining Lamar in Baltimore, but until he shows that he can stay on the field and still produce, he is firmly fixed in the overrated category. Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen. This may be a bit of a controversial one, but hey, you hear me out here. Compared to the level that the media has put the admittedly extremely talented Josh Allen at, it's a little bit too high. He still makes way too many unforced mistakes, and we saw him get somewhat exposed down the stretch of last season. Don't get me wrong, he is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but let's face it, he is no Patrick Mahomes. Heck, he may not even be as good as Jalen Hurts or Joe Burrow. Carolina Panthers, Adam Thielen. Though Adam Thielen deserves his shine for turning himself from an undrafted prospect out of Minnesota State into a two-time Pro Bowler with multiple 1,200-plus yard seasons, he's now full 4 seasons removed from that peak. And he really doesn't have the same ability to get separation. He simply just isn't the same player. He just gets talked about like he is. The Chicago Bears, Chase Claypool. Well, the Bears certainly overrated the former Notre Dame wide receiver when they traded a second-round pick for a wide receiver. His production has dropped each season since his rookie year, and it somehow got worse after the trade to Chicago. Maybe the addition of DJ Moore will help open up some opportunities for Claypool, but to me, he's a wide receiver 3 at best. Not the game-changing potential number 1 option that people seem to make him out to be. Cincinnati Bengals, Tyler Boyd. While number 83 is a serviceable third option in Cincy, he is far from the wide receiver 2, borderline 1 that people make him out to be. He is an obvious beneficiary of being the third option behind one of the best duos in the league in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Not to mention that they have Joe Burrow slinging them the rock. Cleveland Browns, Denzel Ward. The Browns made a big investment in Denzel Ward ahead of the 2022 season, making him the highest paid corner in the league, which I guess they had to do to keep him in town. But come on, his play is still inconsistent for a guy carrying that price tag. He is often mentioned among the best corners in the league, but when you think of a true shutdown corner, he doesn't really fit the billing. Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott. Dak has put up big numbers since he took over for Tony Romo in 2016, and the Cowboys have won a lot of games. But that's just regular season games for the most part, and they've really struggled whenever the pressure gets ratcheted up, and most of the time, that seems to be caused by the inconsistencies of their franchise quarterback. Denver Broncos, Courtland Sutton. After his semi-surprising breakout season in 2019, when he ran up 1,112 yards and 6 touchdowns, Courtland Sutton became widely regarded as a number 1 receiver. Not to the level of a Devontae Adams or Jamar Chase, but number 1 nevertheless. And at this point, it is time that we admit that we may have been a little rash. He missed all but 1 game in 2020 and hasn't gone over 830 receiving yards since. Detroit Lions, Romeo Okwara. Romeo Okwara first burst onto the scene with the Lions in 2018 with 7.5 sacks in 15 games. And after a down year in 2019, he led the team with 10 sacks in 2020, earning himself a 3-year deal with 25 of the $37 million guaranteed. Now, unfortunately, he went down with a nasty Achilles tear that cost him the bulk of 21 and 22. Now he is in the 3rd year of that deal and looking like a shell of the player that the Lions were excited to extend after the 2020 season. Green Bay Packers, Aaron Jones. Obviously, Aaron Jones has put up some pretty solid numbers across his 4 years as the primary ball carrier in Green Bay. There's no denying that. But he has also been the beneficiary of playing in an offense that had Aaron Rodgers as the focal point. Yeah, so let's see how the now 28-year-old running back does without number 12 to occupy the minds of opposing defenses. Houston Texans, Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward developed a reputation in San Francisco for being able to play all over the defensive secondary, but I feel like all that versatility has resulted in him getting overrated as a player. Look, it's nice to have a guy that you can plug into different spots, but his actual performance has left a lot to be desired. It'll be interesting to see if he can emerge as a legitimate difference maker for Houston, or if it'll be more of the same, just with a different scenery and laundry in 2023. Indianapolis Colts, Braden Smith. The former second-round pick started to turn some heads in 2018 when he made the all-rookie team, but in the time since, he really has proven to be more of a liability than an asset on the offensive line. To make matters worse, after signing a sizable 4-year, $72 million extension in 2021, he has regressed even further. He got called for 10 penalties in 2022, a career high, and surrendered 7 sacks. At this point, Colts fans definitely know that Smith is not the guy that they thought they were signing, but it feels like it is taking the rest of the NFL world a little bit longer to recognize that. Jacksonville Jaguars, Trayvon Walker. People seem to treat Trayvon Walker with kids' gloves last year because he switched from playing primarily as a pass rusher on the defensive line in college to outside linebacker in the pros. But lest we forget, he was the number 1 overall pick in the draft. And with that comes a little bit of expectation. Sure, he was solid in year 1, but not exactly the generational talent that he was made out to be coming out of Georgia. Kansas City Chiefs, Kadarius Toney. Ever since his days with the Giants, Kadarius Toney has been way overrated. And now that he made a couple of big plays in the Super Bowl, everyone wants to talk about him like he is a budding star in the NFL. Need I remind you that we are talking about a 2021 first-round pick who has since accumulated just 591 total receiving yards and 2 touchdowns? Those aren't exactly the kind of numbers to inspire confidence that you have a potential wide receiver 1, heck, or even a wide receiver 2 developing in your system. Las Vegas Raiders, Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones is another freak athlete whose God-given abilities get conflated with the impact that he actually has on his team's ability to win games. Now, more so than ever, he is heading into year 12 and with a Raiders team that might not even contend for a postseason berth, let alone a Super Bowl. He had just 4.5 sacks in 2022, his first season with the Raiders, and I would not be shocked if his total this year is even lower. Los Angeles Chargers, J.C. Jackson. J.C. Jackson really struggled after joining the Chargers last year, and granted, he missed some time due to injury, but he didn't look like the same guy during the games that he did actually play. And honestly, he might have been a tad bit overrated during his Patriot days anyway. I mean, what kind of elite cornerback gets targeted 106 times in a season, like he did during his last season in New England? Los Angeles Rams, Van Jefferson. Van Jefferson is a nice player, and that's kind of it. There seems to be a growing belief that he's a Pro Bowl caliber receiver, or at minimum a high upside number 2 option. The only problem is his production hasn't exactly proven that. During his 3-year career, he has totaled just 1,391 yards and 10 touchdowns. And that is within what has been a very potent Los Angeles Rams offense. Miami Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa. Coach Mike McDaniel has built a super QB-friendly system around Tua, and we are expected to believe that he's a legitimate MVP candidate. Never mind that he now has one of the best receiving duos in the league at his disposal with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Look, all I'm saying is the media needs to chill out with this insane pendulum swing. Minnesota Vikings, Marcus Davenport. Minnesota has taken a chance on Davenport in free agency, and the general sentiment seems to be that this was some high-impact signing. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, but when a defensive end is coming off a .05 sack year, that signing is a gamble and nothing more. New England Patriots, Mac Jones. There seems to be a belief that the Patriots have a franchise quarterback in Mac Jones despite his 2022 struggles. Yeah, we aren't buying it. Jones had a pretty solid rookie season, but it was overhyped because of the organization he was playing for and the quarterback he was replacing. Besides, he never seemed to be the reason that the Patriots won games. He just wasn't losing games for them in the way he did last year. New Orleans Saints, Alvin Kamara. 2022 was the first time in Kamara's 6-year career that he was not named to the Pro Bowl. And if you watched any Saints games, you'll see why. He has clearly lost his step, and doesn't exactly have the same ability to shake tacklers that made him so dynamic in the pass and run game. Kamara is a classic example of a star on the decline who is living off his past successes. New York Giants, Daniel Jones. Listen, Daniel Jones is the kind of guy you want to root for. He got unfairly criticized for most of his young career because the Giants made a ridiculous reach for him in the draft. But now that he has had one good year, people want to act like he's a bona fide franchise QB? Yeah, I'm not quite there. We still need to see more out of Danny Dimes. New York Jets, Alan Lazard. Luckily for Lazard, he has managed to hitch himself to the Aaron Rodgers wagon once again in New York. But that doesn't change the fact that his actual abilities are hugely overrated. I mean, think about when the Jets signed him. It was talked about like they were bringing in some stud. Lazard got targeted over 100 times last year and didn't even top 800 receiving yards. And 788, his 2022 total, was a career best by over 250 yards. That is not number one production at all. Philadelphia Eagles, Darius Slay. Of course, Darius Slay has proven himself to be a pretty good cornerback in the NFL. But there has been a steady drop-off since his breakout 2017 campaign when he led the league in interceptions and passes defended. And at this point in his career, his nickname Big Play Slay seems to be pulling most all the weight for his reputation rather than his actual play. Pittsburgh Steelers, George Pickens. Folks seem to be extremely high on Steelers' second-year receiver George Pickens, which honestly is somewhat puzzling. Yeah, he is a freak athlete, but so is almost every wide receiver in the NFL. And while 801 yards and 4 touchdowns is solid for a rookie, it doesn't exactly scream future All-Pro. San Francisco 49ers, Brock Purdy. Brock was great during his, 8 games? Yeah, 8 games last year. But he also did it in one of the most quarterback-friendly systems we have ever seen. Not to mention the plethora of elite skill players that he had at his disposal, a la Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and the rest of the crew. Now, everyone and their grandmother is rushing to compare him to Tom Brady. And while I wish best for the kid, I think we should pump the brakes a little bit. Seattle Seahawks, DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf may have turned his critics into fools over his first couple of seasons in the NFL, but to me, he's sort of in that Josh Allen category where he's clearly a great player, but he's not exactly in that top tier at his position. You know, like Justin Jefferson or Stephon Diggs. 2 names that he is oft mentioned with, by the way. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin is another one of those guys that quietly went from being underrated to overrated in the blink of an eye. His counting numbers look okay at a glance, but he barely made it over 1,000 yards last year and had a monstrous number of targets. Don't get me wrong, he is a nice complimentary piece, but let me tell ya, he is no wide receiver one. Tennessee Titans, Chig Okonkwo. While a lot of the excitement around Okonkwo has been generated by the fantasy football talking heads, it does seem like some Titan fans have talked themselves into him being some sort of stud tight end. Yet, he plays in a run-heavy offense, and he made just 32 catches last year. Yeah, I don't know about you, but something isn't adding up here. Washington Commanders, Chase Young. After winning Defensive Rookie of the Year honors, it looked like Chase Young was well on his way to being one of the top edge rushers in the league for years to come. But now, well, he struggled to stay on the field and his production has plummeted. He has got a long way to go to make reality match perception once again. But who do you think is your favorite NFL team's most overrated player heading into the 2023 season? Do you think that we got it right? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.